Hi there, I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and today we have a very special program with a special guest. Walter Simon has served as former chair of the Greenburgh Planning Board for 8 years. He was a member of the Planning Board for 18 years until he resigned recently. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for your years of service and for your dedication and hard work. You know, many times people in elective office, we take credit for all the great things that are happening, but a lot of the credit is not 100% deserved because we depend on volunteers like yourself who contribute enormously to the town. I have a proclamation that I'd like to give you. I want to honor you for your years of service, for speaking out about town issues since the early 1980s. You moved to the town from where?
From the Bronx in the 1980s. And when I first moved up here on the Midway Road, you were a young man going around looking for people to sign your petition. And you knocked on my door, and we actually spoke for about 15 minutes. I don't know if you even recall that, but that's the first time I met you. Soon after I came to the town.
And were you active before you moved to the town? Were you active in public service?
Oh, yeah. One of the principles that my parents instilled into me and my siblings, that you have a responsibility to your neighbors and to the community in which you live. So that was drilled into us. I know as a little kid, when my mother would interrupt me from playing and run an errand for a neighbor, you know, that would annoy us that we had to interrupt what we were doing. But that was the foundation of that principle of always looking after your neighbor.
That is great. And I remember you were the vice president of the Juniper Hill Civic Association when you lived in that section of the town. And you were always an activist. I recall that there was an embassy suites.
Right.
That they were going to be. That was proposed in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and the Greenville Circle was a semicircle, and the Embassy Suite wanted to complete the circle by building an Embassy Suites right in the middle of the Juniper Hill residential area, and we fought that with your support, and that was. The zoning was changed to not to permit a commercial property and only residential. And after that point, Juniper Hill, the Greenville Circle was completed, and that's where you have those homes and up there now. And in that area also, you have an affordable housing unit that is well designed and it fits right into that neighborhood. Many people who come up the Greenville, they don't even know it is an affordable housing unit because it's well maintained and it fits right nicely into the neighborhood. So that's an example.
And it's important to maintain a quality of life and a character of a community. So if you look at other communities around the state that don't have good planning or good zoning, you start making exceptions here and there, and then before you know it, the community doesn't look like
the way
it should be.
And that was brought up in the meeting that we had this week in terms of the ADUs, where a gentleman said that he lived in the Bronx, and he bought a home in 1959. But because of a lack of good planning, there were multiple homes built on his block. The block became overcrowded and with cars and everything else. I too bought a house in the Bronx in 1959, and I saw the same thing happen because there was not proper planning, and there was a whole series of row of houses were built, 3-family houses without the proper planning. And that is one of the reasons why in the proposal in this town for ADUs, we looked at that very carefully, and we said we want these units to blend into the neighborhood so you don't have problems like that. And if you look at the law that's being proposed for Greenburgh and the laws that in other towns, what's being proposed in Greenburgh is very much more conservative and restrictive because we don't want that same type of thing happen. We want the housing, it's needed housing, but we want to do it in a smart way. And I think what's being proposed is a smart way of doing it.
That's great. One of the things that I think was interesting about your experiences, again, going back to your days with Juniper Hill, is after the Embassy Suites proposal was rejected, you worked with the town staff and you worked with the developer in coming up with another alternative that made more sense for the community.
Right.
So you weren't like, it's not like only NIMBY, oh, we're going to be an obstructionist, we're going to stop everything. You came up with a reasonable plan that, was long-term helpful to everybody.
Right.
And that is great. You've also, I remember we had a controversy over these batteries.
Right.
And it was very, very controversial. We appointed you to a committee that worked on the best law. And then by time there was a law on the books,
Right.
there was no controversy.
Right.
How did you manage to turn a controversy into something that nobody was objected to? And could you explain what the best law was about?
The battery storage facility is these commercial units that are about the size of a sea container. And what happens that during the night when the cost of electricity is lower, these batteries are charged, and then during the peak time, when there's a high demand, you discharge the batteries. In terms of, and the differential in the cost is what the developer, that's how the developer makes his money, and the differential in the cost. I mean, overall, in terms of the benefit, it's arguable whether or not you're truly benefiting the town, because that goes into the grid. One could argue that reduces the drain on the grid during the high peak demand. So there is a benefit to that. But the real benefit comes if you put up solar batteries, a solar farm. Then you are charging those batteries not by pulling current off the grid. You're charging those batteries by solar.
Oh, wow.
And you're charging the battery, and then you discharge it during the day. And and that's the real benefit of doing it, because there is a net positive.
Right. We did a great job with that. You've also, as a member of the planning board, you were instrumental in Regeneron coming into town.
Oh yes, that was when I first got onto the planning board. I was appointed to the master plan committee, and we spent 8 years on that, because that was the first truly master plan that was ever conducted by the town, a true master plan, which included the history of the town and how the town developed. And one of the things we found out that we did not have an accurate GPS map of the town. And it took us 1 year just to get an accurate
Oh, wow.
map of the town. Yeah, now, the map of the town is all GPS generated and controlled. But it took us the whole year to do that. And but we came up with a good plan. And any good plan, it does not have everything that everyone wants. It did not have everything I wanted, because what I wanted to be included is something we're doing right now, the Four Corners. That was part of the proposal in the master for the Four Corners, and doing something at the intersection of Hillside and 119, but you didn't get everything you want, but it was a good plan, a good man. In fact, we won the award for Westchester County for our master plan. And any good plan, one have to recognize you won't get everything you want, but if you could get the essence and the basic of all the things that are needed, then it's a good plan.
And in a democracy, decisions are not made by one person.
That's right.
So if you want to be effective, you have to realize that you're not going to get perfection every time. Because if you are somebody who says everything has to be exactly 100% right, you'll get nothing accomplished.
That's right.
But, I'm so impressed with the Regeneron. I mean, I'm thankful because we've gotten millions of dollars in revenue. It's been a great boost. There's going to be a lot of jobs, and it's going to help the local property values, and people are going to want to move into the town. So there's just a lot of positives. Another issue is you developed a code for senior residents, and for senior resident facilities, we have a bunch of assisted living facilities in the town. And that happened on your watch. And now you're involved with an affordable, viable living committee that has produced a draft accessory dwelling unit law, which we talked about briefly. But, I guess it's important to think of new approaches that could create affordable housing opportunities for people.
Exactly. And if you look, as I said before, if you look at what the work that the town has done over the years in terms of getting affordable housing into the town, that's one of the reasons the town was not sued when other towns were sued for not providing affordable housing. And I think the town has done an excellent job with the housing committee here in creating a low-cost housing, but what we have identified, there is another group that has the earnings that's too high to qualify for any of the benefits of the housing authority, but cannot afford to buy a house in Westchester County at the average price is like $670,000. You have senior citizens who house rich but cash poor. They have this house, but they can't afford the taxes and to maintain it. And you have young people, some of the children who grew up in this town can't afford to live in this town, even if they might have college degrees. They cannot afford the housing in this town. So that's the group we're looking at.
And, another thing is, for the accessory, dwelling units, you may have a senior citizen, a widow, who basically is having a very difficult time staying in her home. And not only will this create affordable housing opportunities, but it will also generate revenue for that person, which could enable her to stay in the house, she may actually be able to create housing for some of the workers, because if the workers can't find housing, we're not going to be able to provide the services that we need. One of the things that really impresses me about you, and I remember this, is that 8 or 9 years ago, some residents of Edgemont threatened to break away. They filed a petition, and for the first, I'd say, 6 years of the effort, very few people were paying attention. But you and Schwartz were very, very adamant, and you warned everybody, you have to focus on this. You met with state legislators, with Senator Cousins, you met with our members of the Assembly, and you really tried to get people interested.
Right.
Initially, we weren't successful in getting, most people were pretty apathetic. Recently, now we have the Save Greenburgh Coalition, and people recognize that if Edgemont breaks away, it will create problems for the town. Could you tell us why you felt so passionate about this, and why it took so long to get the community aware?
Well, first it starts with our taxes. People come to this town and they go to town hall and they complain to town hall about the taxes are too high, without recognizing that the town only controls, 17% of the taxes? The other 83% is controlled by your county tax, school tax, fire tax, sewer tax, and by residents themselves, by not wanting to consolidate. Now, I fully recognize that people want their own school system, they want their own police department, that's fine. But then you have to recognize there's a cost associated with that. You can't say my taxes are too high and at the same time you want duplication of services. They don't. So you have to recognize that. So that's the first thing. Rather than coming to the town and complaining about your taxes, recognize that that's baked into the structure that most people want to maintain. Okay, so and then the breakaway of Edgemont will further add to that, because you're adding still another layer of government, which will cause Edgemont taxes will go up also, and our taxes will go up,
and our services will go down.
The difference is the impact. The impact of the increase on the average person. Now, there's some people in Edgemont, they are house rich and cash poor, but the difference is, on average, people in Edgemont could afford a tax increase far greater than the people in Greenburgh could afford a tax increase. Plus, the impact will be far greater in Greenburgh, and that is why we felt originally we said everyone should be able to vote. When we saw, after working with Abernathy for a number of years, we saw that wasn't going any place. So we said, okay, let's have an independent study to look at the economics of that, see what impact it would have on Edgemont, to see what impact, and base it on the facts, not on emotion, not what I like or what you like, but base it on the facts. And it's unfortunate that that carve-out was made for Edgemont. Everyone else, every other town has to obey by that except Edgemont. So I think that's unfortunate.
Right, so the law basically treats every community in the state one way, makes it harder to incorporate, but Greenburgh and Edgemont is an exception. And the legislation, which really is upsetting to me, provides this exemption for 16 years.
Yes.
So right now, if the current petition is found insufficient by the courts,
Right.
because I've ruled that the petition was insufficient, but if the court upholds it, they could do another petition 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 12 years from now. And it really is very detrimental to the town, because how could we plan budgets? How could we plan the future of the town when we don't know if we're going to have a financial crisis years from now? So I hope that Senator Cousins will reconsider and repeal the law that was approved about 2 years ago. Why do you think people were so apathetic initially about this?
Well,
Why was it so hard? Because originally, if you right now there's a whole groundswell of community opposition to the incorporation from people in Greenburgh. We've had meetings, people are speaking out, people are expressing themselves, they're getting involved, and they're honestly concerned. But when you started speaking out on this, you were pretty much alone. There was a handful of people who were working on it, but I could probably count it on one hand.
unfortunately, in our society, well, I guess it's not limited to our society, that people don't take the time to learn, get the facts. And they either ignore what's going on or ignore the facts. I've been at this since I was 14 years old in terms of my activism when I was part of the NAACP youth group, and we were picketing Woolworth store on Fordham Road in the Bronx in sympathy for the boycott of the Woolworth stores in the South, and it has always been a minority of people who go out and fight for things. I've been fortunate, though my family did not grow up with much material wealth. We grew up with a lot of ethical and spiritual wealth. That is that when you see something wrong, you have the obligation to try. You're not going to be always successful, but you have the obligation to try to make it right. And I think what has happened now, when you have things like we don't teach civics in the schools anymore. People don't read the newspaper. They get on their phone, they see a little one sentence, and they don't have the opportunity or take the opportunity to learn what the facts are. So I think the challenge for us, and for challenge for the town, the challenge for those who think who are committed to making a better society, is that we have to fight against the pressure for people to not be informed, and to do everything we can to make people informed so they can make decisions based upon facts, not based upon what I want, I believe, I think,
Right.
And I think that's very important.
Right. So before I forget, because we're starting to run out of time, I just want to present you with this proclamation thanking you for all your hard work, your service to the community. You've really been a tremendous asset. You also are a leader in the Save Greenburgh Coalition. You've been active in the school, with the schools, the facilities committee, because the Greenburgh schools certainly needs infrastructure, work. You've been a treasurer for Judge Braithwaite's, campaigns. She's a senior judge in the Greenburgh Court. And you're also involved in your own condo as a board member of High Point. Sometimes being a member of a board at a condo is harder than being in town government. Is that true?
Oh, it can be challenging.
Yeah. So you get the same type of complaints?
Yeah, you have the same type. You people, you have a group of people who are dedicated to making a better environment, and people will not hesitate to say, "Oh, but you missed that little point over there, or you missed this there."
Right. And you're also active in your church at Grace Episcopal Church.
Yeah.
And you've been on the vestry for 22 years. And in addition to all that, I don't know, you probably don't sleep. So you have served as an executive board member of Lifting Up Westchester, a group that focuses on homelessness and helps give people a better quality of life. Right. So you've really done so much, and you really deserve our thanks and our appreciation for your years of service.
Well, thank you very much. I feel very, honored that of the recognition, and one of the things, it's one thing. I have done this because I felt is the right thing to do, and to be recognized for something that you just think you should be doing anyhow it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Great. And we only have about a minute left. Do you have advice for people who are thinking about becoming activists or on boards?
Well, you should always, it's one thing to complain about things not being right, or you like to think things to be better. But in order to make that happen, you have to step out and say, I'm willing to help. It's not enough to say what is wrong. You have to say, I have an idea how you can make it right, and I'm willing to help.
Great. Well, you've definitely helped, and you've definitely made an enormous positive impact on our town. And everybody in Greenburgh should appreciate all you've done for many years, and I hope you'll continue to be a tremendous asset to our community and provide us with the input and knowledge and advice, because Greenburgh is definitely better because of you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Great. I'll give you this, and I'll show everybody the proclamation. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Great. Thanks a lot.